And after the Nationalist Collective, where we heard that wonderful speech, we're going to get you more action. This time, viewers, from the top court, where the Supreme Court is making observations and detailed ones in the Election Commission of India SIR hearing that's continuing in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court bench has started speaking and observations have been coming out. 1 hour ago, the Supreme Court bench, Justice Bagchi had spoken about elbow room being given to the Election Commission of India under the Representation of People's Act, and they said some elbow room has to be given under the RP Act that mandates they can conduct a special revision in a manner as it deems fit. In fact, Justice Surya Kant also added that the provisions in the RP Act would be in consonance with the Constitution. Viewers, remember the Election Commission of India versus the ADR, that's the Associate Democratic Rights, had begun its hearing yesterday in the top court. They started off with Kapil Sibal, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Today they have Gopal Sankaranarayanan speaking for them. It's a hearing that is seeing a lot of questions being raised. We also have for the Election Commission of India a lengthy affidavit being filed. Rakesh Dwivedi, who's appearing for them, senior advocate, has also gone into great details in the affidavit to explain how the ECI is just doing its job. After all the petitioners and the Associated Democratic Right, the ADR, the complainant, the petitioner has done its job, the ECI will also be going forward and they're going to give an understanding of what they have to say. Aditya inside the courtroom has been listening to the hearing and going into great details of the hearing. So we're going to try and go across to Aditya to get exact details of what was said in the Supreme Court today. I also want to tell our viewers this is not the only observation that Aditya has said and given to us. He's also told us right now that Justice Prashant Bhushan is also making arguments in the courtroom, and they're talking about arbitrary power to recommend, not to recommend. There are documents that are there with every Indian has, but there's a discussion on whether they are a proof of citizenship. This is what is being discussed in the Supreme Court. There was a discussion on Aadhaar that came forward. Prashant Bhushan has also spoken as an advocate and the Associated Democratic Rights in the Supreme Court right now, where he talks about the basis of recommendation and non-recommendation. In fact, he's the one who said large number of dead people have been found and have their names on the rolls, which the ECI has also taken into account. And several people whom they said have been dead, they said are not dead. Yesterday, we also saw Yogesh Yadav making certain observations and detailing in the Supreme Court hearing that's been going on. But I think the most important aspect of the case that's been happening in the top court, according to us, is also how the ADR has been called out by the ECI in its hearing with having malified purposes. The Election Commission of India has been extremely clear. They have been extremely categorical in a very strong affidavit where they say we have the right to conduct this survey. We also have the right because we need to understand which are the true voters and which are not the true voters. The hearing continues in the top court of the country. The Supreme Court of India hearing the Election Commission of India's case and going into great details about the citizenship, about the survey that has to be conducted in this case. And Supreme Court continues this hearing. Yesterday, the bench of Justice Surya Kant and Bagchi heard the petitioners. Election Commission of India also has to respond. But till now, we're hearing Senior Advocate Shadan Farasat argue for the petitioners. I want to go across to Aditya joining us live. Aditya, you've been in this hearing for the past 2 days. I don't want to go into technicalities of what's happening in the Supreme Court, but tell us the body language of the lawyers for the petitioner and the Election Commission of India. Who's speaking? Are they also facing some answers and questions from the ECI? What is really happening? Give us the inside scoop and the drama that's taking place in the top court of the country inside the court.